Welcome to the 2025 Global Peace Film Festival Filmmaker Conversations. I'm Gabby Kennedy, host of the Actors Talk with Gabby Kennedy. And co hosting these wonderful conversations is Nina Strike, our wonderful founder and festival director of Global Peace Film Festival. Hi, Nina.
Hi, Kathy.
This year's festival runs from September 16th through the 21st in Winter Park in Orlando. And the festival's Free for All Shorts program runs from September 22nd through the 28th. For more information about our films, go to peacefilmfest.org. Now, I'd like to introduce our wonderful guest today, Ellie Pierce. She's the director of Abraham's Bridge. Eleanor, how are you today? And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing well.
All
Excited
right.
to be here, excited about Global Peace Film Festival.
Absolutely. We are all so excited. We're a little less than a week, almost a week away, and the anticipation is building. I can't wait. I can't wait. So, what we're here to talk about is Abraham's Bridge. Will you please tell us about your film?
Sure. My film is a short film about the Tri-Faith Initiative in Omaha, Nebraska. We visit this 38-acre campus where a mosque, a synagogue, a church, and an interfaith center are built side by side. They are connected by a circular bridge. They work together in a shared donation garden, and they kind of cultivate this, let's say, a quietly disruptive vision about what interfaith relationships could look like. At the same time, they have to confront difficult questions about the limits of the Abrahamic model, about the declining affiliation of youth, and rising currents of division. In particular, we have this close look at the grassroots experience of the challenges that were confronted in interfaith relationships after October 7th and the war in Gaza. So it's 35 minutes, and it's screening together with Fiddler on the Moon, which should be a fun combination. It's I love talking about Abraham's Bridge because I love talking about Tri-Faith.
Yes, and we're so delighted to be showing it in the festival. And you know, as soon as Kelly Devine, the head programmer of the Global Peace Film Festival, saw it, she said, "Nina, you have to watch this right away because this is the film, and particularly this is the film for the Interfaith Council of Central Florida, because it is such a wonderful model." And they do confront difficult questions. And you were filming, through the pandemic, really, because that was when they were building the facility. How did you find out about this interesting place? Because you're based on the East Coast, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm based in Boston, and I work at the Pluralism Project at Harvard, and we study the changing religious landscape of the United States, and we look at emerging interfaith relationships. And so we work with students and other collaborators, but we had a graduate student who said, "Oh, there's this exciting thing happening in Nebraska, this Tri-Faith Initiative," and it was just sketched out on paper. Nothing had been built when she first told me about it. But my father's from Nebraska, so I had a little bit of a sense of, for some people, it's like, oh, nothing's happening in Nebraska. It's a flyover state, but there's a lot that's happening in Nebraska, and it's a blue dot in a red state. And there's a lot of exciting and innovative things that are happening there. So I followed the story, building by building as it was constructed, just out of research interest for my work. But then when I attended the online opening of the last center, I thought, what's going to happen now? It's COVID. This project that is intended to bring people together isn't going to work because they can't even meet in their own buildings, let alone get together. So I just thought, what can I do to help make this model, this experiment that I think is so fascinating, how can I get it to a wider audience? And there's nothing like the medium of film for doing that. So, so from 2021 through the present, I've been working on this project and had the pleasure of meeting so many wonderful people at Tri-Faith.
That's great. Yes, and tell us about the difficulty of shooting through COVID.
Yeah, I mean, this film began and ended in times of crisis, beginning with COVID, where some of the buildings weren't open for worship. Social distancing was still very much alive and well. So we shot our interviews outdoors, and we shifted our focus away from sort of what was happening inside the buildings to what was happening in between the buildings. And that ended up really informing the spirit of the film and relocating the interest from buildings, which are beautiful, and which sort of drew my interest in the first place, to the garden, this beautiful donation garden that produces 8,000 plus pounds of produce every year. But it shifted our focus because we couldn't get into the buildings, and because they couldn't, they were really working much more in the garden. So it brought a new dimension to the story, and to an emphasis really on the literal ground on which this project was being built, both in terms of its origins as Omaha land, and in terms of the fact that it was a Jewish golf course created in response to the exclusion that was happening with the Jewish community at the time. So really, for COVID, it was really an opportunity to reframe how we looked at it and to shift our focus to the spaces in between the building. But the second crisis of October 7th and the war in Gaza was much more significant in terms of its impact on the film and the narrative, because we had finished production. We had a rough cut, we'd screened it, but then when October 7th and the war in Gaza happened, we realized we had to include that chapter in the story. They had a tendency to avoid conflict on campus, and they couldn't avoid this conflict. I think no interfaith organization has been able to avoid this conflict.
So you kind of answered what I was going to ask next, which was about, what surprised you in making this. And those are, these two monumental events. So let's talk a little bit about the interfaith nature and how, what really moved me in the film was the garden, and how much it opened up those that interfaith dialogue naturally and casually. Mm-hmm. And of course the shock of October 7th, which which had to have changed, which changed everything for almost everybody.
Yeah, the garden is a place where, sometimes they talk theology and sometimes it's de facto, certainly it's de facto interfaith conversation because it's people of different faiths coming together, but they're not having conversations about, they don't think that they need to solve world problems. They're just solving the problems of their community. They're helping the most vulnerable members of their community to deal with food insecurity. And so the idea that they have what some people call a dialogue of life, I think is really, really important. Coming together in interfaith dialogue. So what's your goal? To agree, to disagree constructively, but the goal in the garden is so much more practical and productive than many of those conversations, and isn't just a parade of people in their finery across the stage, affirming these bland commonalities. They're working on a common project and on common good. And I love the fact, I mean, talk about a surprise. The garden was not part of this plan. It emerged, naturally from the people who were part of the community, seeing it as an extension of the best of the Tri-Faith vision. And it continues to be that. And like, one little surprise that is related to that is that the cinematographer that I worked with, whose name is Justin Limoges, who is local to Omaha, after he was going to the garden for about a year, I started noticing in the footage he sent me that he was in it. And he was locking off his camera and pushing a wheelbarrow or lifting heavy rocks. And I didn't say anything, but over time it was more and more. And it turned out he started volunteering in the garden, and he would lock off the camera and help out, because he was a couple decades younger than a lot of the volunteers. And he is now one of the main garden volunteers. He is not a member of any of the communities. He is just a gardener, and he really connected with the positivity of the vibes in the garden. And I just think it's such a testament to kind of being open to and welcoming in the way that Tri-Faith garden is, and the project is more broadly.
That's wonderful. Gabby, do you have a question?
Absolutely. As I'm listening to you talk about Abraham's Bridge, do you have any behind the scene moments that really made this project special for you while in Nebraska?
Yeah, so many. A lot of them in the garden, I guess. Well, so the behind the scenes moment, I think, although the garden started to play this central role, I don't know how to garden. I have a black thumb. My grandfather was a Nebraska farmer, but somehow I lost that along the way. So even though I found it really compelling, I didn't know anything about it, but they let me volunteer in the garden alongside them and taught me how to do things. And that was just a really incredible experience, just to really get that sense of the cadence of their work days, to be working and, pulling up carrots and seeing the mosque in the distance. It was just a really,
Yeah.
I can understand how Justin got looped into the garden, because I felt that same kind of sense of connection. I think the other thing I would say, just as a behind the scenes thing, is that there's a part in the film where I talk to some young people, and I have, in my professional life, I've interviewed, thousands of people, but I've never interviewed a 6-year-old. And I have to say, he was one of the funniest and in some ways most challenging, but really just a very enjoyable
Yes.
interview for sure.
Yes. So, Eleanor, tell us what's next for you. What's next for Abraham's Bridge, and what's next for you as a director?
Well, I wish I could say that I have my next documentary project all lined up. I have not yet found a story that I feel is as compelling as I did Tri-Faith, that I'm willing to dedicate the next 5 years of my life to. But I am taking the film to a number of festivals. After Global Peace Film Festival, going to Detroit and to DC, and I've been going to some academic conferences with the film, and it's in some classrooms. So for the rest of the year, my focus will really be on making sure the film gets out to a wide and diverse audience. And then I don't know what'll be next.
Okay.
Yeah,
Exciting. That's exciting, really exciting. So, Eleanor, how can we connect with you and support you in your efforts?
Well, I have a website for the film called abridgefilm.com, where you can learn a little bit more about the film. I will soon be posting a discussion guide for folks who are using the film in their teaching and in their classrooms and in communities. So, but for now, it's just more pictures, photos of some behind the scenes and some just images from Tri-Faith, hoping to be invitational to encourage people to read more about Tri-Faith and learn more and see what people can build in their own communities.
Yeah, that's really great. Really great. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing Abraham's Bridge at Global Peace. And you mentioned that you have more film festivals. Do you have those dates posted so maybe we can see where you're going next or in the next city?
Yeah, I need to put those on my website, but right after Global Peace Film Festival, I'm going to Better Cities Film Festival, appropriately enough, in Detroit, Michigan,
Okay.
and an interfaith event in DC, and going to Wake Forest College. So what I love is that the film, even though it is so specific to one community and kind of, I guess, a niche film in some ways, I love that it's getting in front of really diverse audiences.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Eleanor, I can't thank you enough for joining us here today to talk about Abraham's Bridge. And we all look forward to seeing it at Global Peace. Again, Global Peace Film Festival is happening in Orlando, September 16th through the 21st. If you're in town, please check out our links, go to our website, buy a ticket, come and join us. And we look forward to everything that this wonderful festival is bringing. Eleanor, thank you so much for joining us today. Nina, thank you for joining us. We appreciate all of your hard work, time, your effort that goes into bringing this festival to light for all of the wonderful filmmakers. And we'll see you ladies at Global Peace Film Festival. All
Thank you very
right. Bye,
much.
Nina. Bye,
Bye.
Ellie.
Bye. Thank you.
You're welcome.